to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.
Good morning and welcome into Inside the Game here, number 176 on this Thursday, October the 9th. I'm Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wangler, and our producer, Ryan Galinsky. We welcome you back here. Yesterday, we had a chance to talk about about pay to play, and we did not get to a number of other things that we wanted to talk about yesterday. So we'll get into that this morning here. We'll talk about whether winning at all costs. Does winning really matter, and should we be in the mindset of winning at all costs, or is winning the most important thing? We'll talk about that this morning as well. But last night, Detroit Tigers, they were down 3-0 and found a way to come back and make it 3-3, and then ultimately won 9-3 yesterday afternoon, and moving on now to game number 5 back in Seattle. And I think that, except for Ryan, I think me and Nate. No, Nate, you did say that the Tigers would lose in 5. I think is what you'd said. And
that was my official prediction.
Me and you are still in this bet, so to speak. This conversation about the Detroit Tigers. I don't know. I think Ryan, you said they're going to get swept, didn't you?
Yeah, this team makes no damn sense to me at all. Again, you're down 3-0. The Bats did not come. Were not alive. They were non-existent for three games, and then all of a sudden, we get 3 runs. Javi Baez, for some reason, actually lived up to his contract of $20 million a year. Hits a nuke. Riley Green hits a nuke. It makes no sense. This team makes zero sense to me. I no longer have an opinion about the Detroit Tigers anymore. I'm just going to let it watch and just see what happens. Also, shout out my guy Zach McKinstry. Chippewa gets a ribby yesterday. That's all I got to say. Even though he's sucked all playoffs long, he's got 2 critical hits in this series.
Well, you heard Mike Valenti say it on sports radio in the Detroit area. He goes, I don't even know what to make of this team anymore. Like, I don't know what good to say. I don't know what bad to say. They can't hit in big situations, but when their backs are against the wall, they can. The pitching is egregious at times, but yet there's no team in baseball right now, in my mind, that's better at playing the matchups when it comes to mixing and matching a bullpen than the Detroit Tigers. Also, mind you, they have the best pitcher in all of baseball right now, and he takes the mound in Game 5. This is just a team that is just the hodgepodge of personalities and different things that they can do, and their ability to just kind of stumble their way into wins is so uniquely Detroit Tigers in 2025. You're right. You saw the dominance in Lakeland. You saw the dominance in West Michigan. You saw the dominance in Erie with where the prospects were and where the prospect system is right now, being one of the best in baseball. And at the major league level, they find a way to win games when they need to win the game. I mean, losing the division really doesn't even matter in my mind. Now it's just, if you make it to the American League Championship Series, like, that trumps anything you may have done in terms of winning the division. I don't care about 15.5 game lead. I don't care about any of that other stuff. You're in a position to do it now. The one thing I will say, and I've talked to you guys about this before, like, I grew up mostly a Cubs fan because my dad watched them growing up. They didn't have lights on the stadium. It's not a wop, 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 wop. You ever been to Wrigley, Ryan?
Series.
You ever been to Wrigley?
No.
Well, Tigers have a World Series. It was just 40 some odd years ago. But anyways, you got to go to Wrigley, man. That's a cultural experience. You and I got to get out there to go see it. But anyways, grew up with that. I got to see Javi in 2016, what he did with Chicago. All I'm saying is when he plays on a good team, Javier Baez does good things. He just rises to the occasion. That's what he did in Chicago. It's what he did in New York. It's what he's done everywhere else along the line. And so I think, when he came to AJ Hinch before the season began this year and went, listen, I'm just going to try to affect winning any way I can, whether that was at shortstop, whether it was in center field when he was playing in the outfield for a stretch of time, or his back finally starting to feel good after he got surgery on it and everything. I mean, there's a lot. Javier Baez is a special player and will always have a special place in my heart, not only for what he did in Chicago, but just the big moments he's had in his career. Also, if you want to take a look at that 2016 Cubs team, he's one of the last remaining players who's actually playing at a high level in Major League Baseball. So, yeah, El Mago, the Magic Man. I don't know. I saw it coming from a while, a long ways away, but clearly he's turned things around this year. So that's nothing. Yeah, it's been amazing in the postseason.
And think of it this way too, right? The Tigers win here on tomorrow. I think they play tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they play tomorrow. They win tomorrow. They're staying within a couple 100 miles. They're going to go to Toronto. So
Yeah.
That series will be.
That's only 6.
That'll feed
it's
families.
It's only like 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
That will literally feed families if they play Toronto in the ALCS.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it'd be be very interesting matchup as the Yankees lost yesterday 5-2 and 3-1.
Last thing before we go to break, because I know you're about to transition into break there, John. But hey, Tarek Skubal, if you're watching, I know you're definitely not watching, but make vengeance for last year's Game 5. You got to come out, have some revenge for what you did last year in Game 5 against the Guardians. Get it done, Tarek. That's why you're the best player, the best pitcher in baseball behind Paul Skeens. But you're the second best pitcher in baseball.
I was not planning on going to break.
Oh.
But,
Oh, gotcha. I thought that's where we were headed. My bad. Hey, also, shout out Mech Jack. He's in the TikTok chat today. Good to have you back, buddy.
It is. It is good to have him.
How the
back
Twins doing, buddy? Huh? How the Twins do? Huh?
Oh, geez. We're attacking all of Minnesota.
Hey,
and,
Mech Jack,
How the
I'm
Twins, huh?
take care of my guy JJ McCarthy over there with the Vikings. Take care of him. Take care of him. I know he's
Carlos
struggling right now.
Correa
Make sure he's
pan out
good.
for you. Huh? Who won on that one? Javier Baez or Carlos Correa? Who do you want?
Oh, he said no. He says
remember-
no
remember
idea.
that whole
Baseball's
free
nowhere on my
agency
radar,
thing?
so he's not a baseball guy.
Not a
okay,
baseball
all right,
guy.
okay,
Fair
all
enough.
right, okay. All right.
We are, just because Ryan said so, we're going to go to break. But we come back here, we're going to dive into.
I'm glad I have a ton of
We're going
influence.
to dive into is winning at all costs. Is that a thing that we should be focused on? Is winning important? We'll dive into that here on the other side of the break. You're watching 176 on this Thursday morning.
An all-out battle of skill, passion, and determination. The NISA Pro Cup, presented by the National Soccer Network. The stage is set. 10 teams, 8 days, 1 trophy, 3 moment, exclusively on Roku TV. It all kicks off October 13th on the National Soccer Network.
Welcome back here to Inside the Game on this Thursday morning. Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wengler and Ryan Glinsky. And, you know, yesterday we were talking about pay to play, and it got into a pretty, I would say heated discussion, but definitely the blood, hey, we got the blood boiling a little bit yesterday talking about pay to play and specifically socioeconomic and how that plays a role in the lack of talent, right? And that's something that I think that we have to continue to shine a light on. It does not impact football like it does soccer. It does not impact basketball like it does soccer. It doesn't impact a lot of other sports. I mean, but you start getting the sports that cost money to play. Hockey absolutely affects hockey. Lacrosse, absolutely, right? Baseball, I don't know if, I mean, again, there's travel baseball. I would argue that probably yes. But again, if we look at the most of the breeding grounds for the talent in this country, it's coming in the high school environment, right? It is the high school players around the country are making their name known in the high school space. I don't know if there's a huge following of travel baseball where people are being scouted. But tennis, probably same thing. Golf, I mean that's a sport that traditionally would require socioeconomics in order to be able to play it. I mean, golf is expensive. Right. The equipment, and then going out and playing on a Saturday. I mean, to 18 holes, $60, $75 to go play a round of golf on that. If you want to do it more than once, good luck with that. But anyways, So today we want to talk about winning and how important winning is. And I think it's important for us to establish right from the get-go, as we get ready to have this quote read by Ryan, is to set the line, okay, about winning. Because we talk about the different levels, right? There's different levels to these sports, right? There's a different level in the youth environment, and then you start getting into the collegiate environment, you get into the professional environment. So I think it's important for us to say that I think this is a message isn't so much about the professional levels or even probably the collegiate levels. It is about the youth level. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah, it's more about the youth level.
So let's dive into this quote.
Yeah, so this is coming from Matt Crocker, who's one of the sporting directors with the U.S. men's national team. He's managed a handful of youth English national team or youth national teams, whatever you want to call it, U20s, whatever it is. And he just brought up a point about, he was asked about player development and does winning absolutely matter at the younger ages than it does at the senior level. And his quote, let me just send this. His quote is, "Winning is absolutely important, but it's the winning mentality what it's not is. Win at all cost mentality, there is a difference." So winning at U15 had no bearing on success later on, which he did talk about that he won something with the U20 English team, and at U15 it did not matter. That's where he's getting at. It's a cost-winning mentality we want to promote and not a win at all cost mentality. This puts player development second. We want to put player development first. Winning runs alongside that in terms of mentality of the players.
Yeah, so I think that obviously this is an important thing to talk about, and that's why I thought it was important to kind of set the lineup, about like where this is for, right? And so in the youth environment, and I think again, if we even pull another layer back, because there are different levels within the youth environment, that I would argue that because of what is being put into it, that winning does matter. And I'm going to step aside from soccer for a moment. My sister, my oldest sister, she has a daughter that's, I think she's 7. My niece, she's 7 years old, and she dances 6 days a week. They pay an astronomical amount of money for her to go compete competitively for competitive dance. They pay a ton of money for the costumes, a ton of money to do all that, and they're traveling around the country to do national things at 7 years old. And when you're paying that kind of money, what do you expect as a parent, right? From the team standpoint, and then what are you expecting from the individual standpoint? You're expecting your child to get better. You're expecting your child to achieve their personal goals. Right now at 7, I would argue, I don't think outside of having fun, there should be a lot of personal goals in there at 7 years old. But then again, that's where dance all starts. In the youth soccer environment, an 8, 9, 10-year-old, there should never be a focus on winning. It should only be about development. I don't care how much money you're paying. It should only be about development. Development and fun. Development and fun. Development and fun. You start getting into 11, 12, 13, 14. We've already talked about this. A majority of your players are actually leaving the sport in that 12 to 13 window. Why? Because they no longer have fun, or they no longer care, They want to be with their friends. They want to try something else. That's when a big chunk of players leave. And so that window at 13 is really the window in which some of these things start to actually matter. And while I don't disagree with Matt Crocker on the U15 mentality that he's talking about, what I do disagree with is understanding the different levels. And in this country, we are a country that's built fundamentally on winning. And so winning absolutely matters from that perspective. But I don't think that winning is more important than development. And I think that's what the message is here, is that where are we developing the player? Because if we're just trying to win, if I'm a soccer coach and my job is to win a soccer game, I'm going to forego development in order to win at all costs. I'm going to do things that I wouldn't normally do in order to go out and get a victory. And so that's a really important thing to understand. Again, at the youth level.
Yeah.
You know, and also understanding that when you go into a high school environment, like your JV, your freshman JV varsity, it kind of, again, different. The varsity level, my job is to coach, and my athletic director explained this to me. He goes, John, your job is to win soccer games at the varsity level. That's your job. Now, freshmen and JV, their job is to develop players. Winning is not as important. Obviously, winning is great, but winning isn't. We want to develop players through the system so that when they get to you, you have a good crop of players. Just like in minor league baseball, and Nate, you can attest to this, right? Winning, while it's great at minor league baseball, it's about development. And so if you don't win a bunch of games, at the end of the day, the Detroit Tigers don't care the Whitecaps won that World Series, so to speak. They don't care as much as they do about getting the 7 players that they got out of them in the last 8 months that are now playing for them on their team, who are developed by that same system. Right. So I think that's an important thing to set up. I know you're going to get into this as well, but I think it's important to establish that first, and then we can have a further discussion about how winning at all costs really is not an important thing.
I would give a little bit of pushback simply on not that they don't care. They do care, and they do want to see them win and win championships. But at the end of the day, if they didn't end up winning it, I mean, the house is not going to end up burning down simply because the West Michigan Whitecaps didn't win a Midwest League title, right? So that's the difference. Is like, but learning how to win is a very, very important thing, because you carry that with you the remainder of your career, specifically in minor league baseball. Why I was excited to talk about this quote is because I feel like I deal with this dichotomy every single day of my life during the baseball season, but even afterwards and into the postseason. Like, you know, you still got Ryan talking to me a lot about, you know, different players getting promoted and this, that, or the other thing. That is the goal, right? The goal is to, when you get drafted, these are, if you want to look at the minor leagues in one way, they're all development leagues. Yes, they're pros and they're getting paid and they have signing bonuses and everything like that. But the goal and the objective is not to win games at the high A level. That is, or to win games at the AA level or AAA level. The goal is to get that player to a point to where they can go up to Major League Baseball and contribute. However, learning how to win is something that is important for those players when they're going up the layers. However, we're not talking about professionals. You know, when we come into this conversation, we're talking about something completely different. What's tricky in my mind, JT, and you just said it about your position at the high school, is that for you, the priority is winning games, right? That is why you are there. Your job is to not necessarily, once the player graduates or once they're done with your team, whatever they do with their career is up to them. You may have had a hand in that. You may have assisted in that in one way or the other, whether it be contacting coaches or this, that, or the other. But your job, as many of these coaches at the amateur level, is to win games, because that provides job security. So it's easy to say, hey, winning's not everything. But to those coaches, yeah, but winning's their job. If they don't win, they don't have a job anymore, and now they're looking elsewhere. So I'm not saying that what he's saying is wrong. I think he's completely spot on with what he is saying. But the issue is, I think learning how to win is important, and I think learning how to do it the right way is the harder thing. Because when you get into this win at all cost mentality, that's where we kind of lose the plot. I remember I made a video on this podcast back when we were in our early days talking about in the MHSAA how they don't have a shot clock. And there's many different states in the union that don't have shot clocks. I think there's maybe only a handful that do. And we have this thing, and it's called stall ball, right? Where literally you can just sit on the ball for an entire 4, 5, 6 minutes. You don't have to shoot. You can just stand around and everybody can just look at each other. And that's all you have to do to literally stall out the other team so that they don't score because you realize that they're better than you. Those kids that are on a team like that, in a situation like that, are not learning. They're not learning how to be better. They're not learning how to fight through adversity. They're not learning how to go toe-to-toe with players that might be better than you and just figure out a way to win. Because you can do that in basketball, right? If you can hit your shots, if you can come up with turnovers, that's how you teach the kids. Because once they get to college, there ain't no such thing as stall ball. You got to shoot the basketball. Like there's no level, there's no location anywhere in the world where college basketball does not have a shot clock, because that's just ridiculous. It's asinine. That's so antiquated that you wouldn't have one. But you are using a loophole in the rules to win games at the cost of the players on the court developing. That's where sometimes I think we have the problem. But again, if you got hired on to win games, I can't really blame the coaches in this situation. As much as I want to be like, yeah, well, that's all they care about. That's what they got brought on to do.
Issue, though. I don't. It's not so much the athletic director. It's again, what is the expectation? If I sit in front of a room of 80 parents of kids, and I did this for 6 years, I would sit there. I would ask parents, "What's the most important thing to you?" And if I would have put winning was right up there as number 1, 2, or 3. Again, team. Not your child, but team. What do you want from the team? We want to win. Mm-hmm. We want to win this. We want to win that. We want to win this. It's a winning, okay? Now, if I ask you what you want for your son, what I want for your daughter, they're going to say, well, I want them to develop. I want them to be better human beings, and I want them to start. And probably start is probably first, right? And to be fair, again, I've said this before, if I have a room full of parents and I'm talking to them, again, every parent in that room is going to say, I want my son on the field with the 10 other best players. That's what they're going to say. And so, there's 11 players. One of them is going to be my son, because there's not a parent on earth that says, I want my kid not to start. And so I know Mekchek has a couple comments he's put in as well. And he says, if winning is the job, the athlete should not have a job. That's our society.
No.
And so I think that's important. Go ahead. I know, Ryan, you have
his parents one is funny. Mekchek in the TikTok chat. Again, if you are watching the show and want to get involved in any way, comment on YouTube, Twitter, or hear us on TikTok, and make sure you follow us, subscribe, like button, share with your friends, family. But Mekchek, he has a lot. To answer your hockey question, it affects hockey less now than it used to, especially in Minnesota. But he goes, don't ask the parents. They don't know anything. And to that point, he's kind of got a
man. He's got a point.
They might not, but they don't. They might not know anything, but they have all the power.
Yeah,
yes,
they get you fired.
Yep.
I mean, again, my job is to keep my job. Right? As much as I want to develop the player, which that's my job. I always said this. My job is to develop the team. As the head coach of a soccer program, my job is to develop the team. If you want to develop an individual player, you have to get a trainer.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how that works. I mean, there's no way around it. If you have a tennis coach, what does the tennis coach do? The tennis coach trains an individual player to get better. Right?
Yeah.
But if you're into a team environment, you have to have a head coach. And so that's why in football, they have position coaches. Those jobs are to help train the players, those individual players, those 5 to 10 players, to get better at that role. The head coach's job is to make sure that the team, all 22 players, know exactly what they're supposed to do based on who they hired in those position roles. High schools don't have that. I didn't have 15 assistant coaches. I got paid $4,600 a season, of which I put in 40 hours a week. I got paid like $4 an hour to do my job.
How many weeks did you work? How many weeks?
It was like 3 months. It was from August the 5th through the end of October.
So that's what, 12 weeks?
Yeah, I got paid $4,600 was my last ever paycheck from Birmingham Groves High School.
So you got $383 a week. Divide that by 40. Hey, give yourself some credit. You got $9.5 an hour.
Yeah, $9 an hour to do what I so
the federal minimum wage.
So again, and if you think about the club coach, These are the club coaches. They're in that same ballpark, right? Mom and dad want to go out there. Again, I was a club coach. We went to a tournament, and before the season, I gave all my young ladies, my players, I gave them a packet of papers, and in there were all the soccer terms that they needed to learn. This was U13 girls soccer. I gave them all the terms so they knew numerical positions. They knew all the terms of soccer. So if I said anything that they didn't understand, they could relate to this. I wanted to teach them the game.
Yeah. Right. There has to be an educational component.
Yeah. So I'm teaching them, right? Because, I've got 3 days a week with them. And so we're in a tournament, and I'm yelling instructions out, to my players. I'm like, hey, you got to get wide. You got to get all these different things. And I remember after the game, a parent walking up to me and going, John, I could hear you telling the players this, but it seemed like they didn't understand anything you said. I go, yeah, because they probably didn't read what I gave them.
Yeah.
I go, they probably, well, how are you going to win if they don't know? I go, that's a great question. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Have you asked your daughter if she knows those? If she's read it?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've given this to them.
Right.
Most likely, no, they don't read it.
To that point, that's what stresses the educational component of all this. And that's the most important part. And I think USA Soccer has done a better job at it. And we've had a lot of different guests. Obviously, Alexi Lala said it personally when we brought him on once upon a time, that with the refereeing getting better, with the training getting better, with the coaching getting better, with the educational side, just literally just taking a step forward or a leap forward, if you want to look at the last 3 decades in the United States when it comes to soccer specifically, and we continue to move that direction, that's going to help kind of balance this out, right? Because it's two-sided. Learning how to winning is a learned behavior. That is just something that once you get a taste of it, and that's the thing, like you see programs, you see teams, you see franchises, like when they build a juggernaut, when they build a group that can go out every single year and compete for championships, normally they do it after finally figuring out how to win and what that looks like and what that takes. Once you figure that out, even as an individual or as a team, you're only going to get better. Your mentality is going to get better. And when you get a taste of success, you only want more of it. So winning is a good thing, but the learned behaviors, the educational side of the game should absolutely be important. I mean, I even see this in baseball at the lower levels too. Like there's just a lot of kids that they grow up on video games and they grow up on maybe watching the game on TV, but they don't necessarily understand everything that they need to know about the game. And from a personal development side, maybe they haven't been coached up on diet and nutrition and different things that they should be doing to make themselves better. Now, I realize, again, all of that costs money. To bring it back to what we were talking about yesterday, like none of this is going to be free. Unfortunately, you might have to pay for someone to really help you out and develop you on the personal side. But it's a two-sided thing. I just think, to what he's saying, winning isn't everything. Yes, that's true. But we have to continue to focus on upping the educational side if we want to balance that out a little bit more. But it's an American thing.
He wasn't part of a losing side either. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's real easy. I've coached teams that have won a bunch, and I've coached teams that never won anything. And you're going to say, well, John, I took over a program, a girls program at Frankel Jewish Academy back in 2017, and they had never won a game. And so who wants to go play for a team that's never won? I don't think if I were to go into a room full of competitive people, there'd be, again, if you were a free agent 10 years ago, Detroit is a place you didn't want to come to play football.
Hell no.
All right.
Yeah.
And so no one wanted to come to this. Now they're begging to come here. Why? Because they've turned it around.
We have too much money.
Yeah. So
the cap.
so nobody wants to be in that environment. It's not fun. It's not fun to lose. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, if we understand what the level is in your recreational environments where you're out there just to have fun and you're paying $50 to go play 9 games with your friends. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You're not going to develop. You're just going to go have fun. You're going to be playing recreational soccer, and
There's
that's
nothing wrong
great.
with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Go have fun, right? And then there's the competitive side. And in the competitive environment, which is what travel soccer is, winning and losing matter.
Mhm.
And if you lose, why'd you lose? If you win, you don't ask questions a lot of times. You won.
Mhm.
Great. Now granted,
Yeah.
if you lose, if you're winning and you're a bunch of, little tyrants on the field, people are going to be pissed off about that.
You're a bunch of little.
You're winning at all costs, right? You get into the ECNL Academy levels, these players, they're there for a mission. They are there to go to college. Mom and dad have put them there. They're going to college. They are trying to get to Division I land. That's what they're trying to do. And so how do you get there? Playing well, having success as a team, and going to tournaments where you can showcase all of that.
Yeah,
And
and,
so-
and that's the other part. Yeah, winning increases your exposure. Like that's the tough part. We always say like winning cures all. That's so true. That's the truest saying in sports. Winning cures all. It cures everything. You can have drama in the front office. You can have drama with team personnel. You can have drama in the clubhouse. You can have all this other stuff going on. But if you're winning, and it makes everything better. The media pays attention. The news pays attention. Everybody's on you. I mean, I to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to like share my entire life on this show, but when you go through an entire baseball season, and I hate to keep bringing it back there, but there's just a lot of parallels here. You're going to get into what they call the dog days of the summer, which means everyone's going to start losing their cookies a little bit because we've all been cooped up in the same place together for the last 4 or 5 months, and we're ready to get out and go do something else, right? So you're going to have friction. You're going to have things that are going on where it's like, oh, like some days are just a drag. But when the team goes out and they win, everything else just kind of sorts itself out, right? And so even for individual players at the same time too, if you're on a side that goes out and wins championships and has a reputation and this, that, and the other thing, like you are going to get more eyeballs. I realize that there's this whole saying, and I meant to say it yesterday because I do think it's the most hypocritical thing ever. I used to think it was accurate, but now I think it's hypocritical. If you're good enough, they'll find you is not accurate at all. And I don't agree with that. Like there are so many gifted athletes that exist in our world and in this country in particular that will never be noticed because they weren't in a position to be noticed. I feel the same way about musicians. I feel the same way about broadcasters. There's a lot of talent that will be left on the chopping block simply because they weren't in the line of sight at the time. And so when it comes to winning puts you in that spotlight. At the very least, it puts you in a position to go on and have success. I mean, look at, it's like that Michigan team that went on to win a national championship in football. Like how many players got drafted off that team? Now, how many are making significant contributions in the
13 or
NFL?
14.
I don't know. But a lot of them
Oh.
ended up getting picked up because they were on that team, that bulldozer of a team. So this, again, winning isn't everything. Yes, and we shouldn't be selling our souls to win at a U15 level. But my golly, does it affect everything else along the lines, including being noticed and potentially getting you more opportunities down the line? You bet your bottom dollar it does. And so that's why it is a priority. But this is America, baby. We want to win. Everybody wants to win all the time. Nobody wants to lose.
Yeah, we really
So-
need to add the eagle screech to the board when we do that. But MechCheck he's been active in the chat. I want to read a couple of his comments. I believe he's referring to you, John, on this one, kind of based on how the timing when it came in. He says, you're not wrong, but high school isn't where we should look. That's why I played junior gold and not high school. I imagine that's a hockey. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, MechCheck, but that kind of seems like in terms of soccer terms is an academy for hockey. And then his last one said, pick the top players to go be in intensive programs and let the kids in high school play.
I'm going to take this one. That's already happening in soccer. And so your
said
academy
yes, that's
players,
hockey.
your academy players are not they're not playing high school soccer because they're not going to be found there.
No,
we
they're not.
already know this. And so,
Yeah.
but at the same time, life is not fair. And I try to teach this to my players. Like, hey, you come in, you try out, and hey, the varsity soccer teams, just like at the college level, supposed to win. You're supposed to win.
Yeah.
right? You're supposed to win. I'm sorry. I'm not going to like argue that with anybody. You're supposed to win. If you're there for fun, go play JV. Go play freshman, right? Go play rec. You don't even have to play at the high school level. If your goal is to just have fun, go. All right?
You can
but
have
if
fun.
your goal
Yeah.
is to be a part of something where winning is a top priority, not just winning the little league, but getting into the playoffs and playing for a state championship where you can get to have a ring. And for someone that was part of that, I knew in the program, again, if you know where you grow up, everyone here, if you're growing up in a city and you've been there for a long time, you know the history of your programs, right? Again, I knew going into it that when I was a player, that when I went to Troy Athens, the goal was state championships, okay? When I got to Birmingham Groves High School as a coach, I knew just winning a league would be fun. Like I knew that. And what did we do? We were in the lowest league. And what did I do in my 5 years? We won our league at every level. Right? The thing that eluded us was the district championship. I could not get that done, but we won every league. All right? And so, thank you. Oh, that's nice. So
USA, hire them.
damn right.
USA, hire 'em.
We won at every level that we wanted to, and we hoisted 3 trophies. And so when I say that, it's not meant to be like, hey, we were trying to win at all costs. No, winning was a priority for us to go where we wanted to go, and every team is different. And so yeah, I mean there are towns across this country that the team is never going to win a league title. Yeah, probably. And players come from different walks of life, and yeah, maybe there's 2 or 3 players that are good. The rest are above or below average. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. But I'm not going to sit here in this chair and be like, varsity soccer is only meant for players that want to have fun. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to like paint that broad stroke just because somebody who's not even an American is trying to tell us that winning isn't important. When he's been a part of a culture where all they do is win.
Yeah.
I find that to be disingenuous, to be fair. But at the U15 age, again, depending upon the level and the league and what you're signing up for, I would agree with the statement that winning is not important if you're in MSYSA, green, whatever, where, yeah. I mean, because there's like 75 levels at the youth level now. You could play in these different things, and it who cares if you didn't win that league game against the Michigan Rangers B team or C team? Well, who cares?
Right.
But next weekend, we have MSYSA State Cup, and all those players who are playing in that want to hoist a trophy and go to regionals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They signed up for that. They want to compete for a state championship. And so, they tried out for their team, and they made it, and now they're playing. The Little League World Series. Those teams that play in Little League World Series, those are just best players, all-star teams. Mm-hmm. You don't think winning at all costs is important to those all-star teams? Absolutely, it is. Because what do you get to do at the end? You get to go to the Little League World Series and be on ESPN. I mean, that's pretty freaking special, right?
Well,
and
let's.
I don't disagree entirely with this message, but to make it sound like just playing sports should be all like butterflies and rainbows, also not an accurate thing to say, because learning how to win is important. But learning how to lose, I say, is actually more important, because players that know how to win soccer games and always win and have never lost felt that feeling of losing on the last day of the season in a very maybe catastrophic way or controversial way, where a referee call or a player goes down or dumb mistake, miscue, whatever. I mean, think about this. There are seniors every year, and Ryan, you were part of this. You played in Anchor Bay. Your last game of your entire high school career.
Oh, give me PTSD.
It comes down to one moment. One moment. I had a player, my last year of coaching, at Birmingham Groves, Ross Sauter, unbelievable player. He worked his ass off for us. And this kid, it's like the 70th minute of the game. It's a 0-0 game. And it's district playoffs. It's the last game of our season if we lose. And the ball comes in on a corner kick, and it came to the near post. He was on the near post, and it just bounced weird, and it hit off him, went in the back of the net. We lost that game 1-0. He was a senior. I know when he walked off that field that he thought it was his fault. And I looked at him, and I told him as his coach, and I said, hey, this moment does not define you. This singular moment does not define you or your career, not by any sense of the imagination. It happens. Things happen. Balls bounce unlucky bounces. It's part of the game. And what you're going to learn from this moment is when you're in that next moment in your life, not here, a tough moment, you're going to remember that moment, and it's going to help you propel you to wherever you want to go. Don't allow it to define you. Allow it to help you grow. And this kid's flying airplanes.
Attaboy.
Like he's going to become a commercial pilot, right? And
cool.
so it's things like that. And so I think that, yes, not winning at all costs, but winning is important, and winning should be a priority when you're talking about playing in a competitive environment.
It should. be.
And what was lesson number one that we learned as young kids when we started to interact with other little kids? Maybe when we went to school for the first time, right? Sharing is caring, right? Like we need to be willing to share our toys, share our things, trust the people around us. And here's the other side of it is when you only develop individuals, or when your only priority is on, this person's above this person, you can do what you want. When your only focus is on me, and in a me culture, and we exist in that, you're going to get selfish players. You're going to get prima donnas. You're going to get the types of players that, to be honest with you, at certain times we've seen maybe on the U.S. men's national team that we've talked about that have just kind of carried themselves in a way where it's just me first, me always, and only me. So if you take it to that extreme, again, that's the type of player that you end up with. So that's why it's a balancing act. You have to learn how to win with others. And so when we're talking about youth sports, learning how to win as a team, right, and rely on your other teammates and rely on the other people around you and trust in the process, all those are valuable lessons coming up. They're the most valuable lessons coming up. Now, once you become a professional, obviously it's a different story. You have to already know, once you're in that environment, how to win with a team. Because if you don't know how to do that, now you're cancerous. Now you're toxic. Now you're not going to fit into any clubhouse you go into. And I don't care how talented you are. I mean, yeah, talent's going to get you a long ways. And the truth is, if you're good at your job, like, you're going to get far regardless of how you act. But being able to combine the ability to not only work with a team, but achieve a common goal with your teammates, be a good teammate, be coachable, be all of those things, that's going to propel you a lot further and a lot farther than just simply focusing on just this one individual specifically. So yeah, I think we've come to the conclusion that it's definitely a balancing act in all of it.
Yeah, and I think too, because I think this winning at all costs thing, I think we need to dissect it a little bit too, because I think that, again, if you're a player who's not playing and you think you should be on the field, your interpretation is probably that winning is at all costs doesn't include you. Right? And so you could be in that position, and that's your perspective. And I can tell you this right now, that every player that I coached at the high school level, I could sit here and tell you that I had great relationships with players, and I did not have great relationships with players. And the players who come into this environment who want to be competitive, but I don't think they understand the competitiveness. They weren't maybe involved in the travel world. They weren't involved. They maybe recreational. They're like, I love soccer, but I know I want to play soccer, but they never taught really. They didn't really go through the process of the tryouts in other environments and having some of those shortcomings, having the development. They just didn't understand the competitiveness of this, and they wanted to be on the field, and they didn't understand why they weren't on the field. And so there's a lot of a tunnel vision about that. And once they realized that they weren't going to be on the field a lot, that's when it was like, the love, it was gone, because it came with restrictions. Before it wasn't, and now there is. Yeah. And so that's the thing that if I look back as a coach, I wish I could change. Mm-hmm. I wish I could go back and say, hey, to that player who didn't have the skill, didn't have the technical, the tactical awareness, the educational component to be on the field, where when we put them out there, we weren't going to be like missing a piece, right? And I wish I could go back to that player and be like, hey, before they even came to my school, and say, if you want to be successful here, you have to do this, 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 and this prior to getting there. And I know
Yeah.
that, like, for Mekjak, for example, who's like, hey, I want the high school environment to be one in which a player can succeed and have fun and do all these things where winning maybe isn't as important. I would sit here and say that the player who's coming into high school who's never played competitively is going to be in for a rude awakening, because you're throwing them into the ocean without a life jacket. That's what you're doing.
Mhm.
You know, you're not preparing. They're unprepared. I told my daughter, Brandon, she became a swimmer her freshman year of high school. She'd never competitively swam. I pulled her aside and said, baby girl, I love you, but don't be surprised if you don't get what you want right away, because you've never done this. Set the right expectations. Have the right, the right mindset, because you might not swim. You might not compete. You might not do this. You might not do that. But no, mom and dad are like, my kid's the number one player on the rec rate. They score a goal, like 30 goals last year in their rec league, and they're the best player I've ever seen. And well, yeah, because they weren't playing against anybody that was good. And then they come into high school and they're playing against everybody that's good and even better than them. And they're like, why aren't they scoring goals? Because they're
To that
Well,
point,
and go ahead,
that-
Ryan.
to that point, I've actually experienced that a handful of times in my high school soccer tryouts. There was this rec player who was so confident, didn't play, travel soccer or anything like that, and he was, they were so confident, and they came in, and I remember them like talking to me. Hello to whoever Nate's waving to. And I remember like they talked to me and they're like, dude, I'm so pumped for tryouts, like this. I'm like, where you play? They're like, directly. I'm like, all right, cool, man. Like, have fun. And then you get to tryouts, and it's completely different for them. They're struggling to even get the ball. But to your point about high school and stuff and having a rude awakening, I remember my freshman and sophomore year. I was freshman on JV, and that was just like a whole fun. Like winning did not matter a ton. It really didn't. We were just out there having fun. Sophomore year, we were trash anyway. So when we did win, it was like the greatest feeling in the world. And then once we started to get really good in one of the better teams in the area, my junior year, all of a sudden, like after 4 games, it all switched, and we got to win at everything to get to a state title. Didn't do it that year. And then senior year, we were like, it was strictly business, I would say to that. But we had our fun. But again, winning, as Nate mentioned earlier, winning solves everything in terms of issues. Like, we were pissed if we tied a game. Like, we were genuinely pissed. That senior year, we were pissed about it. And then when after the year after I left, they got to the state championship game, and just like talking to a couple of them, they were talking about how much they wanted to win a state title. And I think the environment that you're brought into, like John mentioned, that if you're a recreational player getting out there, you might have your expectations hurt a little bit. But again, it also depends on the environment that you're in. You go into a smaller school that doesn't quite win, there's going to be no expectations of just winning, because you're just kind of there having some fun, creating some good connections, some great memories, and stuff like that. But it depends on the environment that I believe that you're in, especially in the high school.
Yeah.
Well, and to what you're saying, you said you wanted to win. Like that's the most important thing that I'm taking away from everything that you're saying right now. You guys wanted to win. You wanted to win a state championship. You wanted to make waves. You wanted to make your mark on the high school, college, or high school soccer landscape in the state of Michigan. You wanted to do those things. Like that's where I think we need to start with this whole conversation. Who plays an organized sport in high school and doesn't want to win? Right?
Nobody.
Like you don't play the game unless you want to win.
Well, again, nobody until you're not playing, right? Because again, if you're not playing, your mindset's going to change, right? Then you're like, oh gosh, well, they're not. Again, it's like almost the mindset where you're like, well, I hope they lose so that way they can put me on the field and they'll win.
Oh no!
I mean, there's a mentality.
Maybe for individual players.
Well, an individual who's not playing might start to have that resentment where they're like, well, I kind of hope they don't win. If you're a backup goalie, you kind of like, I hope the main goalkeeper screws up a little bit so I can get in there. Yeah, I mean, like that's kind of, and so you don't think there's a backup quarterback on earth right now who wants to start that's saying, man, I hope there's a Tom Brady moment coming up here for me.
Right.
I mean,
but everyone wants to contribute to winning. Like they want to have their hand in winning.
Yep.
No one wants to be a laughing stock. No one wants to do any of those other things. So that's why I think winning is always at a baseline important. I just think, you have to be careful when it comes to developing individuals and only focusing on individuals, because you can really get lost in the sauce with that.
And back to a comment coming from the TikTok chat coming from Ekjack, and this one is kind of for you, John. So we were talking. So to my point of what I was saying, that's because you learned how to win. That's fine if the kids drive that. It shouldn't be coach led. Coaches should facilitate where the team is at. Do you agree with that?
Well, players win, coaches lose. That has always been the truth. Players win.
Yeah.
Players are the ones that are out playing.
The coach in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah.
Despite the coach.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Coach is supposed to put them in the right spot.
The perfect example of this, right? If you don't even look at me for this, but I mean, what is it that changed the Lions? Okay, what was it that changed the
MCDC,
Lions?
Brad Holmes,
right? You obviously great leadership in regards to Brad Holmes, but the culture shift changed because the coach created a culture that players wanted to be a part of. And that's what the coach is responsible for. The coach is responsible for creating a culture and a foundation in which players can excel. And excelling equals winning. Might not be instantaneous, but it equals winning. Mm-hmm. And my job as the head coach is to ask players what they want, both individually and what they want for the team. And every year we asked our players that. We did it individually, and we asked players what they wanted as a group. And there was not a single player, at least from a public standpoint and or a private standpoint, that ever said losing. Okay? Wasn't even an option for them, right? It was winning. And a lot of times we were putting things on those papers that I would never in a million years would have thought would have been a goal. And so we asked players these questions. They literally told us their goals. What do you want to do this year? Some players would say, I want to score 10 goals, coach. Oh, cool, great. And what do you want for the team? Oh, I want the team to win districts. Or I want the team to win the league. I want the team to beat Seaholm. I want the team to do this, right? It was never like, I can't wait to lose. You know what I mean? It was never that way. And there was, and I could ask player 1 through 25. You know? And there were some players that we called, they were charity players. They were charity players. And what I mean by that is, and this is what Andy Stoops was talking about here last with the I Hate Soccer podcast. He was talking about how, in the recreational, in the travel environment, because parents are paying, there are players that get charity playing time that if they weren't paying, they'd be getting charity playing time. That's what they call it, charity playing time. You know what? We're going to give you minutes because you're paying. That's what you're getting. You're getting charity. He goes, in college, you don't get charity playing time. There is no charity playing time. You're gonna
I like that term.
And so, again, if we talk about in my environment, a little different than Troy Athens, right? A little different. And if we talk about the high school environment, it was different than Troy Athens, different than like the schools that competed for state championship every year. But I could not afford to give players charity playing time, because here's what happens too, and this is the part that nobody understands. You are only as good as your weakest player. All right? And that's an important thing to say. All right. So if you put your weakest player out in the field and there's 11 players and there's one weak player, that's charity player. The other 10 players on the field do not want that. Okay. And that's an important thing. So we're talking about the team now, not individual, the team. So if you put a bunch of players out that are all equal, everyone's fine. But the second you put a player in there that does not know how to play, that is a step behind everybody else, the rest of the team is pissed off about it, either consciously or subconsciously. And you have a bad goalkeeper. Ever seen that before? You have a bad goalkeeper. Your defense plays differently if you have a bad goalkeeper.
Yes, it does.
It's completely different. And it doesn't matter what sport, goalkeeper bad, everyone plays differently. Like we cannot, whatever we do, we cannot let that ball get by the goalie. So we are going to lock this thing down. Don't let him shoot. And it's 100% the case.
It's just like when you're a good goalkeeper, you might not at the right away. You might not go to a good team right away just so you could continuously continuously to experience shots right in at you, and then you get to a certain age, you're like, yeah, I'm out. I want to go to a good team now.
Yeah,
but
I'm good. I'm good.
And I've seen it happen many. My goalkeeper, my last 4 years of travel soccer, when I was in high school, when I played travel soccer, our goalie was on a horrible travel soccer team and he was facing shots. He was a really good goalkeeper. He saved us a lot of times, and no pun intended on that one. But then he came to us, and he was ready to go because he faced so many shots as a younger player.
Well, yeah, there's a goalkeeper that broke the record for like single season like saves. It was some in high school. We're like, well, is that a good thing or a bad thing, right? Because you think about that, means you got to face a lot of shots, right? So it's like
For the player, yes. For the team, no.
No, but anyways, if we're talking about team culture, I can't tell you how many players would come to me and say, "Coach, do not play this player. Do not play him. Do not play him." And my job as the coach is to obviously to make the best decision for the team, but at the same time understanding what that could do to the team, right? And what a player and so my job was to read those moments, and I also had to listen to players who were like, "Coach, this guy's been with us for 4 years." Because again, as we get into our question of the day here in a moment, we had players that played freshman and JV, but we're never going to be good enough to play varsity. It was never going to happen, right? We knew that. And my job as a coach, when a player became a junior, if they played JV, they had to play varsity on their senior year. So if they made the JV team their junior year, they were going to be a varsity player. That was the rule at our school. So I had to follow it. So if you played JVA your junior year, you were going to be on varsity your senior. You knew that going into it. And so what did we do your junior year? If we felt that you were not going to cut it, we would cut you. Because I did not want to have that player on that roster for senior year. And so we had players that were and there was a player specifically the junior year, the varsity captains came up to me and go, "Hey, coach, we know you're going to cut that one kid because he's not good enough, but we don't want you cutting him. We want him with us for our senior year." I go, "But he'll never play." And they're like, "We don't care. We want him."
We had those players too.
Okay. I go, "But just understand this. Next year, they are your responsibility. They're not my responsibility. Like, that's your responsibility. I mean, obviously, I'll do everything I can to develop them, but they are here because of you. And because I respect you, you're my captains, I trust you, I will absolutely let you have you're this player out next year, but they are your responsibility." And they would take responsibility for that player. They would make sure that player showed up on time. If they had any problems, I'd be like, this is your responsibility. This is what you wanted. I'm giving you what you wanted. That was my job as a coach, was to listen to my players and give them these things so that they could have the season and the career that they wanted. Very different than football, because in football, I think everybody made the program, right? That usually in high school football environments, everybody usually makes the team. They might not play, but they make the team. And I think that that's also an important differentiation as well. But yeah, I didn't come from a winning at all costs standpoint, but winning was important. Winning was a goal, and we did everything we could within the laws of the game and ethically and morally to go out and win soccer games. That's what we did. And if you're doing it the other way, everyone knew who that was, and you didn't like playing him. And that's how that worked.
So we actually went our TikTok live went out for a second, so I just brought it back. So MacJack, who's just entered back he entered back the chat. I just took a picture of his comment, his most recent comment, and he said, "We had those players too. I organized my teammates to have frank conversations with them." I think he's referring to kind of the players that you just talked about. He said, "Damn, thought I got banned for my spicy comments." No. That was completely on our end, MacJack. But yeah, we also had conversations, especially as seniors, of like, we wanted certain guys on the team simply for the vibes. Like, they were on the team to make us laugh. They were there to be on the sideline, always supporting us. And then when we had our off the field activities, they were always there, and it was great to be a part of them, or to be with them, a part of the ride. And MacJack seems to be the same way. Any other points, unless we go into question of the day?
No, I think you did a pretty good job with this one. I think I might beat it to death, actually.
Yeah, we did the last couple days. We've only had one topic to talk about. But by the way, if you are looking, U20s do play Italy tonight in the U20 World Cup, or actually this afternoon at 3:30. Make sure you go ahead and tune in that one. I believe that one is on Fox, one of the Foxes. And Mekchek, he said he's hyper competitive and he wanted to win. If they're a weak link, if they were a weak link, they should go play right. I think Mekchek would make a good captain.
I think
he'd make a good
Mekchek
captain.
might be a win at all costs kind of person, though. I don't know. He said that guy go to rec. I don't know.
But he said that's a player conversation, not a coach conversation. But hey, I think Mekchek, he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about. But before we get into question of the day, Salt Athletic, an official sponsor of us here at the National Soccer Network. Use promo code NSN15 to save 15% off. Visit saltathletic.com today or scan that QR code because we love QR codes in the world now. But question of the day. This is what yesterday was supposed to be, but we never got to this conversation, so I had to make a Tigers one and BS a comment to make you guys argue to buy myself some extra time. But what age should soccer be everything for a player?
I mean, I think I don't know because I didn't play, right? I mean, I played little tykes, running around with the ball all grouped up when we're like,
so 6 it is. 6 it is.
6 or 7 years of age.
That's it.
But I think once you get to the high school level, I think you should pretty much be decided on, what sport it is that you want to pursue. Now, keep in mind, I went to a smaller high school where trying everything and doing everything was promoted. Like that was something that a lot of us did. I was in the band and I played football and I swam and I played rugby and I played baseball. Like I tried my hand at everything simply just because I wanted to try my hand at everything. But for me, I think it came from a place of understanding, like, I'm not a super athlete. I'm not like going to go pro in one area or another. So I'm just going to try my hand at everything. But I think once you get to the high school level, you should.
All right. Before we get into our answers, Mekchek says any sport it should be 16, but only for the select. And Nate, this one is directed at you by someone who I think is the first time he's been in our TikTok chat, Junior. His name is Junior. He says, so you're the host of a soccer podcast and didn't play.
I mean, you can follow a sport. Buster Posey didn't play baseball. What's your point?
Damn.
I don't know.
Junior.
I don't know.
Junior.
What? You got any other wisecracks, buddy? All right. Anyways, to finish off my point, I think once you get to about 15, 16.
Oh, Mekchek's defending you, Nate. He says, at Junior, you'd be surprised how many coaches didn't play. Oh, so we're going to have to keep this thing going for a little bit. Mekchek defending you. I personally think it's sophomore year of high school. That's personally what my answer is. Speaking to a couple of pro athletes, they said that their kids should really prioritize what main sport, if they want to go on, should be that sophomore year. I kind of look at a guy, Junior says, at Mekchek, not good ones. That's what he's saying. So we got some feistiness going on.
Buster only, by the way, not Buster Posey. I got it wrong. Anyways.
Okay, and then I look at a guy like J.J. McCarthy, which met with Mekchek. No slander of J.J. McCarthy from you Minnesota faithful. He prioritized football over hockey his sophomore year. So that's what I kind of think is the year for me.
Okay, so a couple things. One is if we're talking about the fact that I got to address this. Just because you didn't play something doesn't mean you can't be good to talk about it, all right? And I would maybe even argue that there are a ton of coaches out there that have never played a sport and are fantastic coaches. And you can look at the NFL, for example. There are a ton of female coaches now coaching in the NFL that never played it at a high level and are unbelievable coaches. So that's a very short-minded way of thinking, and I had to get it out there.
Yeah.
And number two, in regards to this, the studies show that when you enter into high school, that is a good time for you to be selective in regards to the sport. That's the sport you're going to choose to go down, right? Again, and I think it's important to state this from the standpoint of what your goals are. Okay, if your goal is to play at the next level, your goal is to play collegiately, you have to be focused. You have to focus. And so now, J.J. McCarthy he was playing hockey, you said?
Yeah, he played hockey for a while.
Okay.
Along with playing football.
Okay, and so I could argue that hockey could actually be very, very beneficial to him. Again, depending on the position you're playing too, right?
He said it is. He said it was very, very beneficial.
That is a sport that you're going to get hit at. There's a lot that goes into it. He's a quarterback, so I would argue again. There's a lot of pitchers out there that were quarterbacks, and you could argue that playing baseball helped them.
Jameis
Also
Winston.
in football. And so I would argue that though that I was a pitcher and I was a third baseman in baseball and I was a goalkeeper in soccer. And so I could play those sports, and I did play both in high school, right? But I made the decision from a travel standpoint that I was only going to go down the travel soccer route and get rid of the whole travel baseball. I don't regret that one bit because what it led me to was unbelievable. So I do think that entering high school, that freshman year, is the point that you have to start making that decision based on your goals. If you have no goal playing at the next level, I don't think it'd be selective at all. You can do what the hell you want.
This is, again, Mac Jack and Junior continuing to go after it. Mac Jack said that you're flat out wrong to Junior. One of my best position coaches in my teens could not skate, but he learned how to teach it at a highest level. And Junior goes, FYI, Ted Lasso is make-believe.
Yeah, Ted Lasso's not a female. And there are actually female coaches out there in the NFL right now who are position coaches, mind you, that are teaching players how to play the game of football. And so if you're going to base an argument off of knowledge of something, especially in today's world, do not have to play the sport to be great at being able to teach it. Again, I've just given you already facts, and even Nate gave all facts. But the fact of the matter is that me right here, I have 40 years of experience in soccer. So I could do circles around 98% of the people in the soccer space because I know everything when it comes to soccer. So
Michael Jordan's the best basketball player of all time, and he oversaw one of the worst franchises in NBA history. So just because you played a sport doesn't mean really understand how to run it or coach it or talk about it. So
no. I think it's when the secondary sport becomes not flexible to the primary.
I'm loving the chat right now. I'm loving the TikTok chat. All I'm hearing from you, Junior, is you didn't play at a high level.
Oh
boy.
I'm loving it.
We you know what? We love the comments.
Make sure you're here every day.
I would always say that we do love the comments, and we do think it's great that you're involved in the chat. I think that if you want to hop on in and you want to attack our host, that you're going to get some of that from us.
Well, it's not an attack. He's just poking. He's just trying to poke fun.
That's a poke.
That's a major poke.
You're calling in to question your credentials, and I a couple times I've been called.
I got my credentials.
Why
I'm
are
good.
you wearing a football hoodie when you're on a soccer podcast? Because I like all sports.
Because it's comfortable and I like the color today.
I mean, but hey, I did mix it up. I am wearing
Just
Team
crawl
USA
out of my
today.
ass. That's why.
USA.
But hey, we think it's great.
Ooh, little do you know, buddy, at Mac Jack. This is great.
Oh, Junior.
Make sure,
Junior.
Mac Jack and Junior, please be back here tomorrow.
Yes.
At Friday, tomorrow, Friday, 9 to 10 a.m. as well. We got a lot going on with the USA men's national team going forward, especially with their game against Ecuador or Australia tomorrow. I don't know what's going on, but hey, we love the activity in the chat, and we will read your comments whatsoever. If you're watching us on anything else, get in our chats. We'll read the comments. At least I'll.
Well, we'll read your comments for a $10,000 gift. All kidding aside. No, hey, that wraps up 176. It's a great question today, by the way. I think it's great. And again, I always say this too. It's not for us or for Nate or for Ryan or for anybody for that matter to decide someone's direction. That's entirely up to them. And if they choose to play 9 sports, then so be it. I mean, who am I to tell you otherwise? I would just say don't put yourself in a spot where you're stretching yourself too thin that you can't do what you want to do and what you want to accomplish.
And don't get hurt doing it.
So I think that's important. But regardless, that is 176 is officially in the books. Going to remind everybody next week we will not have our live shows as we have had here for the week. We will have live soccer games though on TikTok They'll be on TikTok next week, so we're excited about that. So you'll still get live soccer. It just won't be our live podcast here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We will not be on the show at all next week. We'll take a break, and then we'll get back here and we'll get rolling for the episode number 200 coming up here in 24 episodes. So excited about that. But regardless, wrapping it up here, I'm Jonathan Turner. That's Nathan Wangler. Ryan Glinsky. Be back here tomorrow morning, episode number 177 here on Friday, October the 10th. From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.